Attention pro athletes. Want to secure your financial legacy and thrive off the field? Oakbridge Wealth Management, led by wealth manager Chris Anicetti, is your dedicated financial planning ally. But don't take it from me. Take it from the Dallas Cowboys' Tyler Biadasz. He says, Chris set goals financially and has been incredibly impactful in my journey in the NFL. Experience our customized, comprehensive approach, trusted by top NFL players. Don't leave your financial success to chance. Connect with Chris on Instagram at OakbridgeWM_Anicetti. That's OakbridgeWM_ANICETE, and let Oakbridge Wealth Management guide you across the goal line.
First sheet again, big opening, pass 5, pass 10, Vermont's a man, and he goes all the way to the 15-yard line. 17 yards of the carry.
Welcome back to the Believe in Badgers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, presented by BetOnline.ag and Oakbridge Wealth Management. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined, as always, by my good friend, Badger legend, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Matt Bernstein. Bernie, how you doing today?
Dude, I'm great. This is game week. I woke up on Monday morning with my daughter. I was like, yo, game week, Maple. She doesn't know what that means, but that's why I'm excited, for our guests to give us like the full rundown of the entire fall camp from the horse's mouth. Eyes on, real life. You're not reading it in a newspaper. You're seeing it from Jake. The electricity in my body is just going bananas. Saturday, baby. We're almost there.
Your energy is infectious, by the way, Bernie. That's why I love you, Matt. I wish I had that energy right now, but it's great being with you guys again. Love being on the show.
Yeah, well, we love having you. Returning champ Jake Kocorowski from Wisconsin State Journal and so many other places online. And one of the best Twitter follows for not only football, but for Culver's content as well. Before we get into our talking about week one, want to remind everyone that we are presented by betonline.ag, where they continue to be your number one source for all of your online sports wagering needs. You name it, they've got it over there at betonline.ag. It's football time, baby. They've got all the games over there, as well as the Major League playoff with the pennant push going on here in September. It doesn't matter. It's over there at betonline.ag. So head on over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit with the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Bet Online, where the game starts. Bernie.
Jake.
What's up?
If I was a betting man, you can't see the mic.
Yeah.
Which we're sponsored by a gambling place. Do you think the Badgers cover this week?
What's the line?
I'm not a betting man. I don't even know how to do it.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not a betting man myself, man. That's more Colton's line. Colton Bartholomew, my tag team partner at Badger Extra.
Badgers are 23-point favorites.
I think they cover. I'll take the cover. They cover it.
It's Buffalo, dude.
I think so. I mean, I know we'll probably get into it, but long story short, too long didn't read. You are looking at, I think you're not going to see everything with Wisconsin in terms. This is how I feel. You're not. It's going to be not going to be a 5-course meal in terms of what you're going to see on both sides of the ball. I think maybe you get a little bit of an appetizer. I think the appetizer is going to be full enough for Wisconsin, and nothing against Buffalo, but I think I'm sure we'll get into it, but I think Wisconsin. I think they will cover, and I think it will be a good start to the Luke
I should
Fickle
say
era.
I read that line wrong because it opened at 23 and it's up to 27.5. 4 touchdowns.
Matt Perkins over under. Jake over under.
I'll go.
I mean,
I take the under. No, I don't know.
Bern, I'm an eternal optimist, man. So I'm gonna say over. I'm gonna say lots and lots and lots of Braylon Allen yards. So,
but that doesn't mean touchdowns. That doesn't mean point spread. We got too deep into this gambling.
Okay,
I literally haven't.
We've got a million questions for our friend Jake Kocorowski.
I've gambled in a college sport in my entire life, and I'm not going to start now. But I just find that Wisconsin covers every time. I'm like, oh, this is the time I'll do it. They always do the opposite of what I'm like. Okay, I would have done X, and then it's always Y.
That's why the house always wins, Bernie.
That's why Vegas is always right. All right, we're not going down there. Jake, take us through, man. We got so much to cover. They went to football camp. I'm so excited. I'm watching the Florida Gators thing. I'm going crazy. They're in camp. It looks like these days are terrible. What was it like being there?
It's both in Platteville and in Madison. the energy was there. I mean, at Platteville, you make the hour drive down there, you're watching it, and the guys, they're treating it well. They love the food down in Platteville. We had a story about just talking about the food, and I wanted more of a kind of a behind the curtain thing. I wanted more of, just to talk to the wide receivers or other position groups besides the two sets of linemen that we got in, but that maybe they were good to talk about the food, and they all gushed about it. Rodas Johnson had the most, who can say no to nachos, it was essentially what he said. But I think, the amenities in Platteville were good. They more than took care of the Badgers from what it sounds like. And, they practice hard on that practice field, or not the practice field, on the Pioneers field, and go back and, get back to Madison, and, things still rolled. We were able to watch a scrimmage, was it last Saturday, and not this past Saturday, but Saturday before, and energy was still up. It was physical. It's what Wisconsin. Talk about Luke Fickell. He wants both sides of the field to play. To be physical, both sides of the ball, I should say. And this is you're still seeing what we saw in spring. Different type of offense from what was seen in the Paul Chryst era. There's a lot of with the defense, they're still floating with nickel packages. They're going through with their dollar look and whatnot. You're seeing Hunter Wohler flying around the field and whatnot, which I think he's going to be a huge X factor for this team this season. And overall, I mean, I think the team's ready to hit someone else besides themselves.
I think that's a pretty standard feeling coming out of camp. Jake, we ran into you at Squat Fest at the end of June. You and I had the usual Dottie's, my favorite restaurant in Madison still.
Fantastic place.
You don't get much better than Dottie's. I still think they're the best cheese curds. Other people from the team have said otherwise on our show. But I want to ask you, what do you think the biggest change in the team is from when we saw you last at Squat Fest until here at opening week?
Biggest change, I mean, obviously besides with, certain injuries and whatnot to the team and what we've seen, I think just your progressions with offense, I think has been big with Wisconsin. They made more strides. You talk to some of the players, both sides of the ball, there's in spring ball, you're learning the offense, you're learning the revamped schemes, and in fall camp, now you're really getting into it, getting into the grind. And I would say that. I think this team still has the energy. They're still growing together. I likened this on our podcast to having new keys to the car, a keys to a new car. And it's more of how is this going to drive? And you're going to feel it out. I think the energy is still there. I would just say the biggest difference, though, has just been with Wisconsin. Yeah, I would just say it's them learning more about the schemes and diving in, becoming more comfortable. I'm trying to think if there's anything else besides also getting other guys back from injury. Darian Varner, who's now a second team defensive lineman, is going to be huge. Bryson Green has been a revelation. To what we've seen, he was as advertised, if not more, at that wide receiver position. And I'm trying to look at this depth chart right down here just to see who else I'm missing.
Well, listen, that's something I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about today was the depth chart. And I don't remember a time beforehand when the wide receivers were seeing the deepest and most interesting position group on the field. This is definitely something new for us. I think the biggest surprise is a couple things out of that. We hadn't really heard much about Keontez Lewis all fall camp, and to see him there in the two deep right behind Chim, and then as well as the Vinny Anthony appearing, who is someone that was, if you've watched his high school tape from Kentucky, he was an amazing punt returner. He had great moves in the field. We saw him do a little bit on jet sweeps this past year. I'm excited to see, these lesser known guys, but what were some of the other things that stood out about the new depth chart to you?
Yeah, I think one of the first ones was Vinny Anthony having that or designation next to Skylar Bell with the second team. And that's nothing, I don't think it's anything against Skylar Bell, because him and Will Pauling, from what we had seen, he was actually within they were kind of interchangeable with the first team reps. So, but then you had, Vinny Anthony, we saw him in spring ball, right? It was great, to watch just how with Anthony, just how he's emerged, as a second-year player. You mentioned he had a little bit of run within Paul Christ's offense last year, but for a young kid who also was a track star, right? In spring ball, we saw him catch a pass from, Marshall Howe, who's now at Yale, and just take it to the house untouched, and just blazed his way down for a long touchdown. And that's, also with Marcus Allen no longer being in the program, who's also getting those slot reps, that opened the door for Anthony a little bit more. And, he's got the frame for it. And I also think between Pauline Bell and Anthony, there's, they all complement each other. Pauline and Bell have a little bit different, styles to their game. I think Vinny Anthony's a similar way. And so, and I think it was Mike Brown, the wide receivers coach, associate head coach, had mentioned that he was looking for 6 game-ready wide receivers. And so now that you have 7 on the depth chart, now I think here's the thing. Like, does being on the depth chart mean you're game ready? That's one thing that I'll be watching for. But they have 7 guys on that depth chart, which is, and if they are game ready, that's a plus for Wisconsin, especially in that deep group. I think, put my hat down there. Sorry for the bad hair for the fullback. Sorry, Bernie. No longer on the depth chart, my friend. You have that slot back there. I guess the other thing too is just looking at the safeties, and right now it's strong safety. I mean, you have Hunter Waller, who also will play that dollar position, which in that 6 defensive back look, which is kind of a hybrid safety linebacker role. You also have Austin Brown or Preston Zachman. Zachman had, when he's been healthy, he's been able to flash, and there's been interceptions on his play. If I'm not mistaken, I think he might have been playing some dollar too, if I'm not mistaken. If I am mistaken, I apologize. But you have those guys. I would say even, Jordan Turner, Jake Chaney listed as or for first team. Mike Tressel had mentioned this. It's not really a surprise because Mike Tressel said in the spring that Jake Chaney, he regarded him as one of the ones. And so if you have 3 good inside linebackers like that can be interchangeable and they can work in, especially with the defense, if they have to switch in and out, that's only going to help them. But yeah, those were kind of the big ones besides, Tucker Ashcraft, Riley Nowakowski, Luke Fickell talked about his injury, on that Saturday. And then, Clay Cundiff, Jack Eschenbach no longer in the program. Ashcraft, a true freshman. I think that's going to be interesting to see. He's about 6'5", 245. He's been showing the willingness. He got first and second team reps during fall camp, right? So it's we'll see what he can do. But that tight end room's a little thin at the moment.
A little.
Yeah, I know.
It's right? Very thin at the moment.
They don't need many chairs in there.
But I mean, that's the next question. Is like, Hayden Rucci, I think, is underrated as a receiver. Am I saying am I saying he's going to be a consistent pass catcher in terms of like being targeted often? No, but he's going to be able to. In high school, he had a great film catching the ball, and so he hasn't been utilized at Wisconsin like that. I think Rucci is going to have that opportunity to do that within this offense. But obviously with that much talent at wide receiver too. I mean, one of the big questions I'm going to have just with what we see with the depth chart and just the talent on paper is just how they're going to spread the wealth.
Well, Jake, that goes right into really the only thing I care about outside of the fullback position, and I guess the running back position, is how are you going to spread the wealth? My question is, who's going to spread the wealth? You got a QB. We got Tanner Mordecai. How is he looking? What has been his progression? Because just from watching the spring game, which I'm not holding my hat on at all, it looked like they were a little bit slower to pick up the offense, which is obviously going to be a lot harder on a QB than anybody else. How has the QB's progression been? And then we can go into the running backs. But talk about the QB for a second. Yeah,
I mean, Mordecai, team captain, one of the team captains. He was at Big Ten Media Days too. But on top of that, he was also, for those that saw on social media, Wisconsin's got a play hard board. We had heard about that. I had talked to some high school coaches in Ohio, and one tipped me off to that back in December when I was doing stories about Luke Fickell and his relationships with Ohio high school coaches on the recruiting trail. And so they finally unveiled the play hard board, and Fickell told us it was it would be the highest honor in the program. And that's, so like captain wise, leadership wise, you have everything you want out of someone like Tanner Mordecai, who's a 6th-year player, been to a couple of programs. Colton Bartholomew, my tag team partner on the beat for the State Journal, did a wonderful profile on Mordecai. Slight plug there, of course. But then, on the field, I mean, he can make every throw you want. I still think Nick Evers obviously has probably the strongest arm out of the group, and probably is, has the most athleticism with its mobility, but he's been getting reps with the reserves, during fall camp. But, Mordecai, though, he's got, ever since spring ball, he's been the first team quarterback, and he's assumed that first team quarterback role. I didn't really foresee anything different out of that when he was going to arrive, just because obviously, like I said, he had over 70 touchdown passes at SMU, but he can make every throw. He's deceptively athletic, I would say. In terms of the running game, is he going to be a dual threat quarterback now? Will he be able to escape when he needs to and make some plays out of broken plays? Yeah, I think I'm not saying it's going to be a first down every play, but he'll be able to escape and do something, I feel. But, during fall camp, we've seen him. I haven't seen as many, what do you call it? Yeah, turnovers or, takeaways on that note from the practices that I remember. I think he protected the ball a little bit better than he did during that, course of the last part of that spring. The last week of spring, he rebounded from the fourth week where there's some more turnovers and whatnot, especially those interceptions during the launch. But I think he's got the arm strength. I think he can make every throw you want in this offense. And the biggest thing is that, they talk about accuracy. Knowledge is reps is what Phil Longo says on his board. He's got the knowledge down. And then on top of that, he's accurate, and that's going to be a key within this offense, especially with some of the shorter throws that what we've seen out of fall camp in the various ways they've used, not just the wide receivers, but the running backs.
And to open up those wide receivers in that passing game, we got maybe one of the best running backs in the nation. And I also think we got a guy who's right on his heels. So can you talk about Braylon and Ches and what they've done? And literally, how do you spread the wealth? You have two starters, basically.
That's going to be the question. I think it's going to be one of those things where, everyone talks about balance, but I think it's just going to be fluid, where this team will take what the opponents will give them. Okay, you're going to stop the run. We're going to pass. Oh, you're going to stop the pass. Okay, we're going to go for a run. I think they're set up in that way, and something, and they've revitalized that wide receiver room where you have depth now, where you can get, if you get 6-7 guys that can rotate reps, that's one thing. And then on top of that, we're predicting a lot of 11 personnel, because you see that slot there. There's, again, not as much 21 personnel. There very well may be 20, 21, 20 personnel with Ches and Braylon maybe in the backfield. We could see something like we saw that last year in years prior underneath Paul, but not as often. But what I will say is that there won't be as many 7-8 man boxes, 9-man boxes like the old offensive line and the, blocking tight end or fullbacks needed to do in past few years. And so I think that's going to open up more abilities for Allen and for Malusi. Braylon Allen, Brady Collins, I don't know if he told you guys when you guys were in town, but he told a few of us reporters that, were at Squat Fest, that Braylon at like 245 ran a 4.640, which is more than solid for a back his size. And, and we saw a little bit of that too during preseason camp. Malusi, hard runner too. This is a kid that, obviously going into his 5th year, came back for his 5th season, and the Naples native, he looks the part. But both of those guys can catch the ball out of the backfield. Both can run the ball, and we've seen glimpses of that throughout the both spring and preseason camp. So I think this is going to be, it's going to be a dynamic duo. And it's just going to be interesting to see how many carries and each of them get. That's another thing too, is like, Brand's got a lot of carries underneath him. Ches maybe not so much because of the injuries. But I think with how they could spread the ball around, I think that could keep them even fresher later into the season. Braylon Allen, Colton brought this up a week or two ago, talking about, Braylon Allen hasn't really, he wasn't there for the Minnesota game. He didn't play last year. And then the season prior, he was banged up and he wasn't the same player. Right. Or at least that we saw, he looked like he was banged up, right, against Minnesota in 2021. So he wasn't as effective. And so this is a team that, in my eyes, like this offense, it's only going to help the running backs to have this type of passing scheme installed. and they can go from there. So it's in my eyes, I think Wisconsin, the running game should be even more revitalized than what it has been. And I think just the way that they could spread things out will help, especially with the blocking prowess that Phil Longo, that Jack Bicknell Jr., that group that they've inherited, what they can perform, I think is going to be key.
Attention athletes. Do you want a frictionless and tailored financial planning experience to secure your future? Well, look no further. Introducing Oak Bridge Wealth Management, the premier financial planning firm for professional athletes. Led by wealth manager Chris Anicetti, our team provides a unique and comprehensive approach, ensuring your financial success both on and off the field. We understand the unique challenges you face as a professional athlete, from managing cash flow habits to planning major business purchases and navigating complex contracts. That's why we've developed a proven process, working closely with our strategic partners to provide seamless solutions for your unique financial journey. Our services evolve with your career, offering short, mid, and long-term goal setting, portfolio optimization, real estate investments, and more. As you transition to life beyond the field, we support you with career development and philanthropic ventures. But don't just take our word for it. Top NFL players like Chase Boulier, Tyler Biadasz, Alec Ingold, and more trust Oak Bridge Wealth Management to guide them towards financial success. Troy Dye of the Minnesota Vikings says, "I really love the work that Chris and the rest of the Oak Bridge group do. I especially like the honesty and transparency when it comes to setting up financial goals and plans that best fit my needs and situation. It's time to elevate your financial game plan. Connect with Chris on Instagram at oakbridgewm_Anicetti. That's oakbridgewm_ANICETE. And join the winning team." I want to talk about Bernie's favorite thing, and that is special teams. And new punter, new kicker, actual special teams coordinator, and Matt Mitchell. Has anything about special teams stood out in leading up to the week one?
I think the one thing in my eyes is watching. You got the depth chart, and we had talked about it on our podcast. Just Chimere Dike being both first team kickoff returner and first team punt returner. That is a team that. I think that's going to, obviously why that is so intriguing is that DK is also the first team wide receiver, and it probably has, he's one of the leaders of the team. He is, one of the, and on top of that, that's a lot of roles. And, he does have, I say deceptive because, he hasn't really looked like a speedster at times, but, again, Brady Collins mentioned in the summer that he ran a 4.46 at around 200 pounds. And we saw him against Northwestern outrun a Northwestern defender. He's had some good kickoff returns in his time at Wisconsin. So part of me is like, well, it's a little surprising because you don't necessarily think of him that way, but he's also reliable. And especially with punt returns, it's a thing where you talk about trust. If you have to fair catch it, and you can catch it, it is what it is. You would like someone with playmaking abilities to make the first guy miss and see what you can do, but you need to hold on to the ball because that is special teams is such a critical part of the game. Much of the time fans overlook it where they just look at what the flashy offense can do. Atticus Bertram's, and I think he's going to be an interesting addition to this team and just what he can bring to the punting game, Australian punter.
Are they doing the rollout punts? Are they doing the rugby kick punts with him, or is he still more traditional?
I think to expect a little bit of both.
Okay.
With what they're able to do, I think it's going to be something to watch to see how what they do with them. I think he can do either or. But I do think it's going to be something. I think you're going to see a little bit of both there. Nathaniel Vakos at field goal kicker. He's the first team, he's listed as first team kid. He's got the leg and whatnot, and he's been mostly accurate from what I've seen during, fall camp and whatnot. So again, it's going to be, the good thing about the place kicking is that, Nate Van Zels was solid last year. And so if something happens, you have someone that has game experience that you're not trotting out a true freshman. You're not trotting out an inexperienced guy that's never been in those type of situations. And then you have the return of Jack Van Dyke, where if he stays healthy, he has a huge leg for kickoffs, and so, Zach Hintz reminds me back to the 2019 season where Zach Hintz, almost every one went into the end zone. I'm not saying Van Dyke could do that, but I think I think with his strong leg, he could. A lot of them could go for touchbacks, and we'll just see, but obviously we'll see what type of situation. We don't know what type of really situations they're going to have that they'll want to do for kickoffs. If they want to kick it high in the air, because everyone, there's also that fair catch rule, right? So that which has changed the game, where you don't necessarily have to boot it. If you boot it high up enough in the air, there's an instant fair catch there, and they still get at the 25. So yeah, nothing too crazy. But I think the biggest thing is more or less DK being first team on both punt and kickoff return. We'll see if that changes, and see how he does, especially with the new offense and just how many reps he'll get on that side of the ball too.
If you look in the past, though, first off, having Chimray return excites me, because that means that they're taking punt return and kickoff return seriously again. If anyone remembers back to a guy that we all know, Jimmy Leonard, literally we put him as the punt returner. He was a starting defensive guy. He was one of the best guys in the nation at strong safety. And he literally returned every punt. He fair caught some, but we put our best dudes at punt return to block for him. I mean, we put all our starters out there to block. So if you take that seriously, those areas of the game, Brandon Williams, he was on both punt and kickoff return. You had all starters pretty much, and the dudes like Marty Stray, the guys who worked their butts off to make it on the field, who are going to do their job. You have those guys on special teams. The amount of fair catching or getting 10 yards is a huge difference. Or getting 15, or Chimray somehow breaking one and getting 50 yards. It could be a game change across the board in a different aspect. Also, he gets more touches in a game. We're trying to spread the wealth. He might not play every snap on offense, but now he's getting 10 more touches a game in an area where he could actually go and score 10 times. So I think that's exciting, at least for me to hear that we have somebody back there who we're just not throwing someone back there to just, let them fair catch all the time. And I just want to reiterate how important kicking out of the end zone is on kickoff. Nobody believes it until the freaking return guy who's running down the sidelines for a touchdown. And those are game-changing. I don't know the stats. Jake, you might know. Matt Perkins, you probably definitely know, since you know everything. If you score a special teams touchdown and you score a defensive touchdown, it's almost impossible to win a football game.
Just ask the Iowa Hawkeyes. That's all they do.
And it's impossible. It's not impossible to beat them, but it's, it makes me excited that our special teams are actually trying to do something instead of do nothing, which last year made me very upset with. That's what I said about every game. But so thank you, Jake, for sharing that. I just want everyone to understand, you put your best guys back there because they're playmakers to go make a play.
Right. It will be when you were watching the very limited time that we saw some of the kickoff stuff, I do Pauling looked intriguing as a kickoff returner, and he's a second team for both punt and kickoff. So I think, he could be a game changer there. I mean, but like I said, DK's had that experience there, and we've seen guys like Aaron Cruikshank before he went to Rutgers, and you've seen Isaac Garendo, and you've seen guys like, again, Chimray, DK, all make plays like they have in that, was it Devin Chandler too, before the late Devin Chandler too, make plays, and they're game changers.
Look at the 2010 Ohio State. Gilreath come out of the gates and score a touchdown on kickoff return. The game's over. I mean, it's not over, but the momentum is on your side. And if you're a way underdog, it's like you threw the first haymaker, to knock down. So I think it's so important. And listen, you're not going to see DK back there every game for every single return. That's probably not realistic. But the more he's in, the better we're going to be. And
that's going to be something to watch. If he's back there the entire time, he must be doing something right, and they trust him a lot. So like I said, it's going to be, to me, it's going to be one area I'll watch, especially with just how just new team and even just how they set up the punt, the punt and kickoff coverage and the kickoff return units. So it's, and it's not just Matt Mitchell, right? Luke Fickell has a hand in the special teams a lot too. He's got his, not just a hand. I feel like he's got his own, an arm, nearly half his body in that special teams unit too, which shows how important that third phase of the game is to him and to his program.
If you go back, the first person to yell at me when I made a mistake on special teams was Barry Alvarez. He was in the meetings. He was part of the game plan. So to hear that makes me very happy, because if you're a head coach that doesn't care about an area of the game, that doesn't make sense to me. It's you need to listen. If you want to win, especially today, you got to be invested in every aspect of every game, bringing in Brady Collins, doing all these things, recruiting, the whole nine. And I think Fickell's doing that. Listen, we haven't played a snap of football. We have no idea what we're going to see. I'm just excited I think our trajectory is straight up.
Could you give me a Barry Yell impersonation? We're working on this Rose Bowl project, and I've asked Rudy, I've asked Joe Panos, I've asked Daryl. I didn't ask Daryl Bevel about it, but there's a little bit of teaser. Like I've gotten in Lamarck Shackerford gave us some impersonations. Could you give me one?
Most of them involve some kind of language that is not, it's like, damn it, Bernie, that sucks. I'd be like, hey, coach, man. I turned around and Pierre Woods was sprinting down the field. He was right there, spun me around on kick return. I didn't go down. I'm like, coach, I didn't go down though. Thinking I'm a man. And he's like, you didn't go down? That sucks. I want to take you off. You shouldn't even be on this team. I'm like, coach, hey, listen, you'll take me off. Anyone will do better than me. But they always kicked it to me. So, they needed somebody that could catch the ball at that position and potentially block. I literally hated kick return. I would do anything to get off of it. But no one was dumb enough to be on it anyway. No one was raising their hands. Those are like the funny, when you get pissed, you would get the high pitch.
Yes.
And those are the funny voices. He was normal, when he spoke to you.
Right.
Hey, Bern, what's up? But the high pitch, let's go out there and kick their ass. You're get fired. I don't know. It was Coach Alvarez, man. It was so fun.
Javery McFadden does an excellent Coach Alvarez.
Greg Root, too.
Okay, Root does? Okay.
AD
does?
Oh, AD remembers everything.
Joe Rudolph, when we talked to him, was it last month, was very, very, he had a good one. That's the one that Lamarck Shackerford told us to ask about. Panel, I forgot I said last name was Patterson. I forgot his first name, but he was on the team, the 93 team, and Panel said he had the best impersonation. So, anyways.
Well, so Jake, let's roll it forward to this weekend. What are you looking forward? What's the storyline you're paying attention to most in game one?
Just seeing how this team comes back out. Honestly, off the field, it's the age old question. Will the student section fill up for a 2:30 kickoff? It's going to be hot, y'all. And so that's going to be one thing when it comes to just it's going to be warm out there, and just making sure too. I think from what I'm looking at my notes real quick. So this is great podcasting. So I apologize, fellas, but you're looking at, I think they're also allowing people in with, I think, a water bottle, a sealed water bottle. Yep. Yeah. Sealed water, one per person. So just PSA there, please stay hydrated, especially during that hot weather. But for me, it's going to be, how will the running game look? How will they respond if one side, if one thing isn't working? Okay, the rushing game, they are selling out for the run. Okay, what are they going to do in the passing game? I think, how they adjust there. I think with defense, how are they going to pass rush? Who's going to pick up you look at Buffalo. Yeah, they have Cole Snyder, who's a couple preseason award watch lists, but they're also, they have their two leading rushers back, but their top three receivers from last year are no longer with the program. So how are they, going to replace that? And you're going up against a Badger defense that has practice against an air raid scheme. So it's also, those in my eyes, just can they pin their ears back and get after the pass rush? They've talked about CJ Getz having improved his pass rush significantly. Okay, you got to see this because Matt Mitchell admitted it, that he doesn't feel that they're going to be able to replace all of Nick Herbig's sacks together. It's going to be one of those things that's going to be a combined effort. And I don't think it's just going to be just from the outside linebacker group. I mean, you have, where will it come from? Well, Muma Jungmeta and Jake Chaney, who Jake Chaney, by the way, is a wrecking ball. For those that haven't seen him, 5'11", 235, from my hometown of Cape Coral in Florida, just, bulldozer on pass rush. I want to see how the defensive line looks. Can Varner get in and disrupt a little bit? Can Rodas Johnson, James Thompson, have shown flashes of doing that too? And can they make up for what Keanu Benton does? So I think too long didn't read. Offense, how do they adapt? How do they look underneath the first game? Is kind of the overarching thing. But if Sean Dolak, the all MAC linebacker, second in the nation in tackles last year, if they bottle the run game up, can they open it up through the passing game? And if they try to pass, if they seal up the passing game, will Wisconsin be able to get the run game going? Which I think they'll be able to. But I also don't feel like I also want to say just how vanilla are things going to be? Will they be able to, will they need to go to a little bit more of an expanded look to open some things up, or are they going to be able to execute with what is put in front of them? And I'm not saying that they're going to come out vanilla, but I do feel that it's the first game of the year, so you're not going to show everything, right? That's just kind of logic.
They're coming out so vanilla.
So, I mean, we'll see. And it's nothing against Buffalo either. And it's one of those things where even Luke Fickell talked about, there was a question in the press conference on Monday, and they had, Jesse Temple, a good buddy of mine, had asked, just, everyone's talking about the offense, just, what's the biggest question that you have that you want to learn, about the unit, in a game setting. But Fickell kind of, broadly expanded that to talk about, I want both sides of the ball to play physical. I want them to, then you talk about playing clean, and then you wanted to play fast. And within that fast part, he also talked about being simple. And he's not saying doing everything, he clarified that to mean, that doesn't mean we're going to take, we're not going to, do our best to win the game. But he also knows that teams that play physical and they play fast, that gives a huge advantage, right? So to me, that means that it's going to be something along the lines of, go out there, weapons, make plays, play fast.
Jake, let me ask you a question. In today's day and age, does it matter if you show everything in the first game or nothing in the first game? Here's why. I preface this with, everyone is going to have the film from Phil Longo at UNC from last year. We did this. We did it. If a new guy, Al Groh, took over Virginia, we watched all the Jets highlights. So does it matter anymore? You have these coaches that have been doing their thing for 10 plus 20 years. You have the film of all of it, and you can get it too.
Right. I think the one thing that would change, I mean, you could get all the plays, but it's also going to be dependent on the playmakers. So it's going to be a mix of, the offense, they say the best coaches take the personnel that they have, but they format the scheme to fit the best of, to their players' strengths. Right. So you're not trying to fit a peg in a square hole or wherever that whole idiom is. But I think it's one thing where, you have your film from past teams, and Longo had Josh Downs. And so, and everyone knows Phil Longo loves slot receivers. He said so much during local media day on August 1st, saying he almost loves, outside of his family, it's his, he loves slot receivers a lot. So you would expect Will Pauling, Skylar Bell to, probably get some targets there. And I do feel that there hasn't been with North Carolina, and they had a couple 1,000 yards backs, but I don't think they had a back like Braylon Allen. So I think that's where, especially within this offense and within having an offensive line like Wisconsin's line, where you may have film about what he's done, but now that you have a blocking prowess and the guys can pass rush, Jack Nelson, could be a first rounder, or at least an NFL draft pick at the very least after this season. We'll see how others do, but every team is different. So, I just want to see how clean they play, and whatnot. I think that's going to be a key, and just, obviously how they succeed, if they succeed on Saturday.
You talked about the offensive line. How do you think they are going to adapt to this much quicker tempo?
I mean, we've already seen it during practice where, yeah, they may be tired, but it's not like they're like, I've made the comparison of like, they're not like leaning over, like hunched over, dry heaving afterwards. I mean, it's get up to the line. Okay. Or, you look at them and they snap the ball, and they get the signs or get whatever they need to do and they go from there. I thought they've adapted very well to this. Now, obviously it's going to be, and they practice in the summer, so it's going to be hot. It's going to be, I think the high is supposed to be 91 from what I saw coming up on Saturday. So it's going to be warm, let's stay hydrated. We'll have to watch for cramps. I think all together, not just on the offensive line, but throughout the game. But this is a team that, it's a line from what I've seen, they're able to handle it. And they may have, you've seen guys, the top five of Nelson, Huber, Bortolini, Furtney, and Malman, but you've also seen guys like Trey Wittig get in at, right guard at times. And we'll see, if they need to go, if they need to spell somebody for a little bit. But if you can get 6 or 7 or 8 guys, that are game ready on the offensive line, that's only going to help for games like this, but also throughout the season, obviously with injuries. And we'll see when Jake Renfro is, he's not on the depth chart right now. We'll see when he does get back after that, the injury that he had. And, but from what I've seen, they've been nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that's been concerning in my eyes.
I like that you say play clean, because I think that's what we didn't do last year, and it killed us in a lot of different areas. Because when we were 2nd and 15 or 3rd and 10, we didn't have plays for that. I think we do this year. I'm just going off my gut. I would like to see an O-line that is back to like the gritty, nasty, O-line of, you talk about the 93 Rose Bowl. Look at all the dudes I can name, Dan Benny, Clint Scale, Donovan Rail, Joe Thomas. Like, yes, Joe Thomas is a superstar beyond superstars, but these are gritty, not dirty, but like they played dirty, not penalty wise, but like would try to kill you in a controlled, violent way. And that's what I think. I don't know if we're missing that, but I would like to see a little bit more of that, chip on your shoulder. I'm an O-lineman at Wisconsin. I'm better than everyone else in the nation because I play O-line at the best place to play O-line.
I think you've seen it with Arden Nelson. I remember a couple of a couple of summers ago for preseason camp, him being that type of player. I think he can be that type of player. Huber, is an interesting story at left guard. I mean, he's played all over the line at Cincinnati, but I forgot his key phrase. He had a NIL shirt he's a very quiet guy. It's like something about silence. Don't mistake my silence for violence, or I don't know, something like that. Some weird, there's some NIL stuff that he had. I feel bad. I don't remember the shirt, but in Malman, I think, 6'8", 320, I think he's locked, past 2 seasons now, he'll be starting right tackle when he's healthy. And so I think you'll see that, we'll see just if others step up too. Like, I still think Joe Brunner, who, he's going to be a redshirt freshman this year. I think he's a road grader type personality in the run game. And I'm still high on him. But I think this team, I think you'll see a lot of different results if what we think is going to happen will happen in terms of just opening up the box. And just the one thing, I mean, it's hard to have a nasty reputation, to show the nastiness when you're outnumbered 6-on-8 or 6-on-9. Right. And so it doesn't, when you don't have, when the numbers are against you and they're just loading the box and they don't respect the pass, like now, again, we'll see just how it looks, first game. It's a first, and we'll just see how that all plays out. But if it goes like we think, it could very much be seeing that type of mentality and seeing them, run up the score.
No, I think in the trenches, obviously that's where every coach says it starts. But at Wisconsin, it really does start there. And I feel like we might have, I don't know, after like Gabe Carimi and a bunch of those guys, we haven't gotten soft. That's not what I'm saying. I think we're just playing a step under like the nasty, violent, punishing group that those guys, the history that the culture that's there. And I think they can get back. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying to me, it hasn't been as brutal not brutal like them, brutal like watching them pulverize people like we used to be. And I mean, if you guys want to go back, go watch Dan Benning and Clint Scale and Donovan Raiola. Every play, they wanted to literally destroy that person within the game, within the rules of the game, right? Like there was no punching or violence after the play, but in the play, Clint Scale's a bad dude, man. During the play, he was a very silent human being, like most of the time, but what is it? What'd you say? Don't misjudge my silence for violence.
Looking back on this,
I kind of love that shirt.
Oh yeah, no, it's and I think again,
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with our offensive line. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there is a level that they can get to that they haven't gotten to, which will make our team unstoppable. That's what I'm saying.
What Huber's NIL shirt was from my silence comes violence. That's but again, I think he's done well, the Cincinnati transfer. And we'll see just, if Renfro is able to, whenever he gets healthy, just how he progresses, and if he's able to do that and just where Bortolini goes. But I think this group is going to be good. And I do like who could be behind them as well. And, when what's to come, but I also wonder how they're going to look differently when it comes to this style of offense and just what else will they be asked to
I'm
do.
excited for them.
Bernie, you're excited for everyone.
But I think we're playing into a lot of their better. You're right. 9 guys in a box is you don't know what to do, right, all the time. And I think we were trying to do too much, which is confusing, right? Power one way is the easiest thing to do. No matter if there's 40 guys in the box, you just down block. So I think now I feel like we're just going to be in a good place. They're going to be able to read things. I'm excited listen, I'm most excited to watch the quarterbacks and the running backs. But I mean, the O-line is where you have to start, right? We can't throw the ball if the O-line isn't doing their job. And I think we're going to see a revolutionize of the O-line. That's just what I'm saying.
I like to hear that. Well, there's a lot of unknowns coming into this weekend. But anyone who knows Jake knows that there are 2 things he knows better than anything. And that is the Wisconsin Badgers, specifically the Badgers football team, and Culver's. So Jake, to get you out of here, I'm going to ask you for the top 5 Culver's locations in the state of Wisconsin.
Oh gosh, man. I'm
going to put you on the spot.
Since I live close by, I'm about 2 minutes away from it. The Mona Mineral Point Road here in Madison. That's a go-to. Oh gosh, there's always that. We gotta go with the original one in Sauk.
Okay.
In Sauk City. Drive by past that past one every time I go to Devil's Lake or the Dells or Lake Delton or whatever it is. Gotta go with the largest one in Edgerton. Right. That's always a drive back up. Like this weekend, I'm going down a little bit of a teaser heading down. I'm watching 4-star O lineman Owen Strebig in Waukesha Catholic Memorial on Thursday. And then Friday, I'm heading down to Bolingbrook to watch 4-star wide receiver commit Kyan Barry Johnson. And that will be, And then on my drive back, hopefully it's still open if I can drive fast enough. Hopefully my wife doesn't hear that. Or any of the authorities. I will hopefully stop at Edgerton for that one. It's always a good one. Oh gosh. Those are okay. There's a Todd Drive one here on the Beltline. That's a go-to just because it stays open later. So that's a big one for me. Because if you're driving back late from somewhere, you just go there. And then
spoken like a true lineman right now.
Oh yeah, no, it's like I'm trying to figure. You know what? These are all close by. Actually, I was going to say the one in Verona because I've only been there a couple of times. But you know what? I'll say the one in Platteville just because that one was always busy. Like we went down there for a story in late June, Todd Molesky and I, to tour the facility, see what Platteville was about, and then we drive back, and that place was busy. But then, like every time we tried to go when we were in Platteville, it was like oh, maybe we can go here, and like. It was packed. And so I was like, you know what? That means they're doing good work there. So I'll give them, those are my top 5 for right now. Always subject to change. Would love it if, you had a group of, if Culver's would ever want to sponsor, I could do Big Ten Eats. I always want to do that. That's my whole gimmick. I want to do a Big Ten Eats where I'm like, here, we're going to go to the best, restaurants, within each Big Ten town.
Oh yeah.
it would always be Culver's. It's always that gimmick where it's like, and be like, no, guys, it's different. It's different. And then like, nope, no, it's not.
Nope.
Like, this is the best one. But yeah, so no, those are my top 5. And, whenever I'm back in Milwaukee too, you got to give shout out to Cops, and other place like that where, that's where, we've gone, or other places. Like I need to get back to Milwaukee more. Hopefully the recruiting trips that I do, get more back to those restaurants. Those are my fave. Also my hometown, and whatnot, but yeah.
Well, I will give a quick shout out to Lake Mills.
That's a solid one.
Yeah, I think Lake Mills has a solid one, but I love your top 5, Jake. If, like I said, if there's anything better than Badger football, it is Culver's in the state of Wisconsin. We appreciate you coming on here today to share your knowledge with us, as always. And Jake, where can people find you online?
Yeah, find me on, if you don't like my ramblings, which hopefully I haven't rambled too much with you guys, so apologies if I have, at Jake Koco, Koco on Twitter. And then, I think it's Jake_Koco on Instagram. The big thing, though, Badger Extra, badgerextra.com, Madison.com for Wisconsin State Journal. Badger Extra is part of the, Wisconsin State Journal. It's just our Badger premium service, basically. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. And the biggest thing for us, we have a new series called X's and No's, where it's going to be every week. We're going to break down what did and didn't work for Wisconsin, a couple plays per week. We got, obviously, my recruiting coverage. We did Darian Dupree and Grant Steck this past week. We'll have more coming up, and it's a fun time to get aboard, and it's an exciting. I know fans are excited, and we'd love for y'all to give us a try.
Matt Perkins, what is it? Monday morning historical fullback. Is that what we're doing?
We'll be back. We'll be back with our usual Monday morning fullbacks. Monday mornings every week during game week, but now it might be Monday morning RIP fullbacks, something along those lines. But we'll pour one out, or have Phil Longo pour one out for us. But we appreciate everyone here tuning in to the Believe in the Badgers podcast on the Believe Podcast Network, presented by BetOnline.ag and Oak Ridge Wealth Management. So thanks for tuning in, and until next time, on Wisconsin.